The road to Overtoun Bridge is not a straightforward one. It winds through the West Dunbartonshire countryside, a landscape that feels older than memory. Ancient trees, their branches heavy with moss, lean over the narrow lane like silent, stooping figures. On a typical Scottish day, and today, September 8th, 2025, is no exception, a thick, damp mist clings to everything. It swallows the horizon, muffles sound, and reduces the world to shades of grey. You drive with a sense of unease, the feeling that you are venturing into a place that prefers to be left alone. The air grows colder, carrying the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves, a smell that is both natural and somehow foreboding. Then it appears. Overtoun Bridge materializes out of the fog almost without warning. It is a grand Victorian structure built from imposing rough-hewn granite. 3 immense arches span a deep, dark gorge, the Overtoun burn flowing some 50 feet below. The stonework is stained with time and weather, covered in patches of green and black lichen that look like bruises on its skin. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant cawing of a crow or the rustle of wind through the dense woods. Standing before it, you can't help but feel small. The bridge exudes a quiet, brooding authority, as if it is guarding a secret it has no intention of sharing. The architecture itself is part of the unsettling atmosphere. The parapets, the low stone walls on either side are solid and thick. They rise to about waist height on an adult, but for a dog they would create a solid barrier obscuring the precipitous drop just beyond. As you walk across, your footsteps echo unnervingly on the damp stone. Peering over the edge, the drop is dizzying. The burn below is a churning ribbon of brown water littered with sharp rocks and tangled undergrowth. It is a place from which there would be no easy return. The very design seems to invite curiosity while concealing the immediate danger, a cruel paradox that hangs in the air. This is not just a bridge. It is a stage for a long-running and deeply unsettling drama. The structure feels less like a feat of engineering and more like a relic from a Gothic novel. The surrounding Overtoun estate, with its imposing but now abandoned mansion, adds to the sense of faded grandeur and lingering sorrow. Every element seems perfectly placed to create a feeling of dread. The clinging mist, the ancient trees, the silent, imposing bridge, and the dark chasm it crosses, they all work together. They create a powerful, chilling invitation to a mystery that has baffled and terrified people for decades. You feel an immediate, primal urge to understand what makes this place so notorious. Overtoun Bridge was completed in 1895, a project commissioned by Lord Overtoun to provide access to his sprawling baronial estate. It was designed by the acclaimed landscape architect He Milner, intended to be a picturesque and dramatic final approach to the grand Overtoun house. In its early days, it was simply a part of the landscape, a testament to Victorian ambition and wealth. There were no dark legends, no whispers of a curse. It was just a bridge, albeit a very impressive one, serving its purpose for the carriages and later the motorcars of the wealthy elite who visited the estate. Its history was meant to be one of elegance, not terror. The narrative began to change sometime in the mid-20th century. Reports, at first scattered and anecdotal, started to surface. They told of dogs, often long-nosed breeds like collies and Labradors, behaving erratically as they approached the bridge. Then came the first documented leaps. Without warning, otherwise calm and happy family pets would suddenly bolt, scramble onto the parapet, and hurl themselves into the gorge below. The first instances were likely dismissed as tragic freak accidents, but as the years passed, the accidents became a pattern. The numbers grew from a handful to dozens, with some estimates claiming that hundreds of dogs have made the fateful jump over the last 60 years. The bridge's reputation began to curdle. What was once a symbol of prestige became a site of local dread. Families began to avoid it, especially those with dogs. The stories multiplied, passed down through generations in the nearby town of Dumbarton. People spoke of the dog suicide bridge in hushed tones. The phenomenon was so consistent, so specific to a particular spot on the bridge, always on the right-hand side, between the final two parapets, that it defied simple explanation. Was it something about the structure itself? Or was there a darker, more sinister force at play, turning a simple stone crossing into a deadly lure for man's best friend? This history of sorrow is now etched into the very fabric of the place. It's impossible to walk across the bridge today without thinking of the countless pets who have met their end here. The cold granite feels imbued with a sense of loss. The story took an even darker turn in 1994 when a man threw his infant son from the bridge, claiming the child was the Antichrist, before attempting to take his own life. This horrific event cemented the bridge's association with tragedy and madness, blurring the lines between animal mystery and human despair. The bridge no longer stands for Victorian grandeur, it stands for inexplicable tragedy. To understand Overtoun, you have to listen to the people of Dumbarton. Their stories are the lifeblood of the legend. I spoke with Alistair, a man in his late 60s who has lived in the area his entire life. He leaned against the wall of a local pub, his face etched with the memory of something he saw as a boy. "We knew not to take the dogs there," he said, his voice low. "My father told me," his father told him, "it's a bad place. I saw it once with my own eyes. A beautiful golden retriever. One minute it was trotting along happily. The next it was gone, just a yelp and then silence. The owner, a woman from Glasgow, was screaming. It's a sight you don't forget. These first-hand accounts are common and they share a chilling consistency. The dogs are almost always described as being happy and normal until they set foot on the bridge. Then something changes. Another local, a woman named Fiona, who now walks her own dog on a tight lead far from the bridge, shared her family's story. "My aunt lost her Springer Spaniel there in the 80s, she explained. She said it was like the dog saw something or smelled something that we couldn't. It got a strange look in its eyes, became completely fixated on the wall, and then it just went. She always said it wasn't a jump. It was a leap, like it was trying to get to something." The folklore goes deeper than just eyewitness reports. Older residents speak of the bridge being a thin place. This is a term from Celtic mythology, describing a location where the veil between our world and the next is unusually fragile. According to these beliefs, spirits, both good and bad, can cross over more easily in such places. Overtoun Bridge, spanning a deep ravine between two hills, fits the geographical and spiritual description perfectly. This explanation provides a framework for the unexplainable. It suggests that the dogs, with their heightened senses, are reacting to something not of this world, a presence that humans are blissfully, or perhaps luckily, unaware of. These stories, passed from one person to the next, have created a powerful local mythology. The bridge has become a character in the town's collective consciousness, a malevolent entity that demands caution and respect. Signs have been erected by concerned citizens, warning dog owners to keep their pets on a leash. Yet the warnings feel inadequate against the weight of the legend. For many in Dumbarton, the question isn't if the bridge is haunted or cursed, but by what. The voices of the village don't offer a single answer, but they paint a unified picture of a place where the ordinary rules of the world seem to bend, and where tragedy is always waiting just over the edge. Putting aside ghosts and curses for a moment, one must consider the dogs themselves. What is going on inside the mind of a canine in the moments before it leaps? Animal behaviorists have struggled to provide a definitive answer, as the concept of suicide is widely considered a uniquely human construct, requiring self-awareness and a conscious desire to end one's own life. Dogs, as far as we understand, do not possess this level of abstract thought. Therefore, it is highly unlikely they are intentionally trying to kill themselves. This leads us to a more plausible yet equally disturbing conclusion. They are not jumping to their deaths, but leaping towards something. The behavior might be explained by a sudden, overwhelming sensory overload. Dogs experience the world primarily through their noses and ears, senses that are far more acute than our own. A particular sound or scent imperceptible to humans could trigger an impulsive reaction. It might be a high-frequency noise generated by the bridge's structure or nearby power lines, causing disorientation or distress. Or it could be a powerful scent that activates a deep-seated predatory instinct. The dog isn't thinking about the 50-foot drop. Its mind is completely consumed by the stimulus. It becomes a moment of pure, unthinking instinct. Another psychological theory revolves around the perspective of the dog. From a human's height, the danger of the gorge is obvious. But from the low vantage point of a dog, the view is very different. The thick, solid granite parapets would completely block the view of the drop below. All the dog would see is the wall, and whatever lies beyond it on the other side of the chasm, trees, bushes, and sloping terrain. To a dog, it might not look like a fatal plunge at all. Instead, it might appear to be a simple, short jump from one patch of ground to another. It could be an optical illusion, a tragic miscalculation of depth and distance caused by the bridge's unique design. This theory, however, doesn't fully explain why this happens at Overtoun and not at thousands of other similar bridges around the world, nor does it explain why only certain breeds, predominantly those with long snouts bred for scenting, seem to be most affected. This specificity suggests the trigger is not just visual but something more. Perhaps it's a combination of factors: a disorienting sound, an irresistible scent, and a visually deceptive structure, all converging in one specific spot. The dog's mind, caught in this perfect storm of sensory information, makes a fatal error in judgment, driven by an instinct it cannot control or comprehend. In the search for a rational explanation, science has turned its attention to the most powerful tool in a dog's arsenal: its nose. One of the most prominent scientific theories centers on the presence of mink in the gorge below Overtoun Bridge. Mink are small, semi-aquatic mammals that release a very strong, pungent odor from their anal glands, especially when they feel threatened or are marking their territory. This scent is, known to be incredibly potent and can drive scent hounds, like the breeds most commonly involved in the incidents, into a state of high excitement. The gorge provides an ideal habitat for mink, with its running water and dense undergrowth. An investigation led by animal behaviorist Dr. David Sands sought to test this theory. He brought a dog, a spaniel named Cain, who had miraculously survived the leap from Overtoun back to the site. Dr. Sands observed that while Cain showed some interest, he was not compelled to jump again. More tellingly, Sands conducted an experiment on a nearby field. He created 10 scent trails using canisters containing the smells of different small mammals, including mink, squirrel, and mouse. The vast majority of the dogs tested, of various breeds, showed a clear and overwhelming preference for the mink scent, often ignoring all the others. This suggested that mink odor could indeed be a powerful trigger. The theory posits that on a still, damp day, the potent scent of mink wafts up from the burn and gets trapped by the bridge's solid granite structure, concentrating in one particular area. A dog, trotting across the bridge, suddenly gets a powerful hit of this irresistible smell. Its hunting instincts kick in with overwhelming force. It becomes fixated, single-minded, and desperate to find the source. Blocked by the parapet wall and unable to see the sheer drop, the dog leaps over the barrier in pursuit of its perceived prey, expecting to land on solid ground just a few feet away. The tragedy is a result of a scent-driven impulse overwhelming all other senses. Yet this explanation is not without its holes. Mink have been present in Scotland for decades and inhabit countless other areas with bridges, yet Overtoun remains unique in its deadly reputation. Why this bridge? Why this specific spot? Locals are also quick to point out that the jumps have been happening for longer than mink have been common in the area. Furthermore, not every dog that jumps is a scent hound. This leaves room for doubt. While the mink theory is the most plausible scientific explanation to date, it doesn't fully account for all the variables, leaving the door open for the other, more unsettling possibilities that continue to haunt the bridge. When science falls short, folklore often rushes in to fill the void. The most enduring paranormal explanation for the Overtoun mystery is the ghost of the White Lady of Overtoun. She is said to be the grieving widow of John White, the original owner of the estate and builder of Overtoun House. According to local legend, she was consumed by grief after her husband's death in 1908 and wandered the grounds of the estate, including the bridge, for years. After her own death, her restless spirit is said to have remained, forever pacing the granite crossing where she once walked in sorrow. This spectral figure has reportedly been seen by numerous visitors over the decades. The accounts often describe a translucent, shimmering figure of a woman dressed in white, seen standing near the spot where the dogs jump. Some say she is simply a sorrowful, passive presence, a residual echo of a life filled with pain. Others believe her spirit is more malevolent, or perhaps so lost in its own grief that its powerful emotional energy affects the animals that cross its path. Dogs, being sensitive to emotional and spiritual turmoil, might be reacting to her overwhelming sadness or distress, causing them to become disoriented and panicked. The story of the White Lady took on a new dimension following the tragic events of 1994. The man who threw his baby from the bridge later claimed that he had been tormented for some time and that the bridge itself had spoken to him. He identified his son as the devil and himself as Christ. This horrific act led some paranormal investigators to speculate that the spirit haunting the bridge was not merely a grieving widow, but something far more sinister. Perhaps the White Lady is a lure, a benign-looking apparition that masks a darker force which drives people and animals to madness and despair. This theory, of course, exists entirely in the realm of the supernatural. There is no physical evidence, only a collection of personal experiences, feelings, and stories passed down through generations. To skeptics, the White Lady is nothing more than a ghost story, a narrative created to explain a series of baffling coincidences. But for those who have stood on the bridge and felt an inexplicable chill, or for those who have witnessed a dog's personality change in an instant, the idea of a spectral presence offers a strange kind of comfort. It provides an answer, however fantastical, to a question that seems to have no logical solution. The White Lady remains the silent, ghostly heart of the Overtoun mystery. Beyond the specific legend of the White Lady, Overtoun Bridge is often discussed in the wider context of paranormal activity. Psychics and paranormal investigators who have visited the site frequently report a range of unsettling phenomena. They describe feeling intense emotional energy, waves of sadness, confusion, and fear concentrated on the right-hand side of the bridge. Some claim to have recorded electronic voice phenomena, faint, disembodied voices captured on audio recorders that are not audible to the human ear at the time. These alleged voices are often interpreted as whispers from the spirits that linger there. Many paranormal theories connect the bridge's activity to its location. As mentioned in local folklore, it is considered a thin place, a gateway or portal between worlds. Investigators who subscribe to this belief suggest that the bridge doesn't just host one ghost, but acts as a kind of spiritual crossroads. The deep gorge, the running water below, and the ancient stone of the bridge itself are all elements that, in many traditions, are thought to attract or amplify spiritual energy. The dogs, with their supposed sixth sense, are not reacting to a single entity, but to the chaotic and overwhelming energy of the location itself. This idea suggests that the dogs are not being lured or pushed, but are perhaps trying to escape something they perceive as a threat. The sudden, intense barrage of paranormal energy could be terrifying to an animal. Their leap might be a desperate, panicked flight response. They sense a danger that is invisible and incomprehensible to their human companions, and their only instinct is to get away from it as quickly as possible. In their terror, they fail to register the very real physical danger of the 50-foot drop, their minds fixated only on escaping the unseen horror on the bridge. Of course, these paranormal claims are impossible to verify through conventional scientific methods. They rely on subjective feelings, anecdotal evidence, and technology whose effectiveness is a matter of intense debate. Skeptics argue that such feelings are the product of suggestion. People visit a haunted bridge expecting to feel something, and their minds create the experience. The EVPs are explained away as stray radio signals or simple auditory pareidolia, the tendency to find patterns in random noise. Yet for those who believe, the paranormal theories provide the only explanation that seems to fit the sheer strangeness of the Overtoun phenomenon. When logic fails, belief in the unseen takes root. When confronted with a mystery as strange as Overtoun Bridge, it's natural to ask, has this happened anywhere else? The answer is, for the most part, no. While there are countless haunted locations and sites of strange occurrences around the world, the specific phenomenon of dozens of dogs repeatedly leaping from the same spot on a bridge appears to be unique to this small corner of Scotland. There is no dog suicide bridge in America, no cursed canine crossing in Japan. This singularity is precisely what makes the Overtoun story so compelling and so difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. We can, however, draw parallels with other locations known for inexplicable events or strange energies. Think of the Hoia Baciu forest in Romania, often called the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, where visitors report intense feelings of anxiety, nausea, and the sense of being watched. Or consider the mystery of the Taos hum in New Mexico, a persistent low-frequency sound that only a small percentage of the local population can hear, causing them irritation and distress. These places, like Overtoun, seem to possess a localized anomaly that affects living beings in ways that science struggles to fully explain. These comparisons help to contextualize Overtoun not as a complete anomaly, but as part of a global tapestry of weird places. What these sites often have in common is a combination of unusual geography, rich folklore, and a history of strange personal experiences. They become focal points for our fascination with the unknown. They challenge our understanding of the world and force us to confront the possibility that there are forces, be they geological, psychological, or paranormal, that we do not yet comprehend. Overtoun Bridge is Scotland's entry into this exclusive club of deeply enigmatic locations. However, the comparison also highlights Overtoun's unique and tragic nature. While the Taos hum is annoying and the Hoia Baciu forest is creepy, Overtoun Bridge is deadly. Its mystery is not just a curiosity, it is a story written with the real loss of beloved family pets. This elevates the stakes and adds a layer of sorrow to the intrigue. Other places may be haunted or strange, but Overtoun has a body count. This grim distinction ensures its place in the annals of the world's great, unsolved mysteries. A chilling testament to a phenomenon that so far has defied every attempt at a conclusive explanation. So what is the truth of Overtoun Bridge? After examining the history, the science, and the supernatural, we are left without a single satisfying answer. We are left with a collection of compelling theories, each plausible in its own right, but each containing flaws that prevent it from being the final word. The enduring power of the Overtoun mystery lies in this ambiguity. It is a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit together, leaving a space for wonder, speculation, and a considerable amount of fear. The question of why the dogs jump remains hanging in the damp Scottish air. Is it the scent of mink, an irresistible lure that triggers a fatal instinctual leap? This is the explanation favored by science. It is logical, testable, and grounded in animal behavior, yet it doesn't fully explain why this bridge, above all others, possesses such a deadly attraction. Why not the bridge down the river, or the one in the next valley where mink also live? The theory is strong, but it feels incomplete, as if it's only one part of a more complex equation. It rationalizes the act, but doesn't quite capture the spirit of the place. Or is the bridge truly a haunted place, a thin place where the veil between worlds is worn away? Is it the sorrowful white lady whose ghostly presence unnerves the animals, or some darker entity that preys on the vulnerable? This explanation speaks to our primal fears and our fascination with the afterlife. It offers a narrative that is emotionally resonant, even if it is scientifically unprovable. For many who have felt the bridge's oppressive atmosphere, this theory feels closer to the truth than any talk of animal sense or acoustic anomalies. It acknowledges the profound sense of wrongness that the place exudes. Ultimately, Overtoun Bridge may be all of these things at once, or it may be none of them. It could be a perfect storm, a place where unusual acoustics, concentrated animal sense, a visually deceptive structure, and a powerful local mythology all converge. Each element reinforces the others, creating a legend that is now more powerful than any single fact. The bridge has become a self-fulfilling prophecy, a place we expect to be tragic. And so the mystery endures. It invites us to walk its length, to peer into the dark gorge, and to ask ourselves the same unsettling question that has echoed here for decades. Cursed, haunted, or simply misunderstood?